Welcome, everybody, to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. This is episode 14. Today is Sunday, May 5th. We're kind of in the evening here, a little bit of an ad hoc setup, so forgive us if there's some delays or some audio that's a little bit uh, worse than normal, I guess. But we have a lot to talk about today. Chelsea had two incredible wins. Bayern had a bad loss as they prepare for biggest match of their season on Wednesday. So yeah, here we go.
Yeah, super busy weekend, which started a little bit early on Thursday with Chelsea's match against Tottenham, but very interesting weekend as well. Chelsea looked to be in fine form, maybe the best form of the season, while Bayern took a small step back that hopefully won't derail their Champions League hopes.
Yeah, so you want to start off with a little reaction to the Chelsea Spurs matchup, which I guess would have been on Thursday, right? At this point.
Yeah, it was a Thursday evening match in London, a London derby, London derby, as they say. Mid-afternoon match over here in Milwaukee, and it was a super great match. I mean, Chelsea and Tottenham, two London rivals, Tottenham being in North London, Chelsea in West London. And the match was exactly that, a great rivalry match, one that Chelsea continued their great form that they had in the second half of the Aston Villa game. And it's really great to see because Chelsea in that match against Tottenham were creating a bunch of chances. Spurs didn't look amazing, but I think Chelsea are starting to show that they have the potential to be this great team if they can find a way to mesh together with their young players. And it's a lot of fun to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think this is awesome that Chelsea seems to be coming together here at the end of the season, and there's still a few more matches left. So you got to hope that they can keep this momentum up, build up the confidence of some of these young players, and then maybe get a few more guys healthy and really take this thing by the horns next season.
Yeah, the crazy thing about this match too is in the preview I'd posted, there was an insane amount of injuries once again.
Yeah, like
And
14
I'm
or
not
something.
gonna right, and I'm not gonna rant about it again. I've done it enough on this podcast, but 14, like you said, the bench was entirely filled with academy players. I don't even think they really subbed anybody in. I think Cassidy might have come on toward the end for Mudryk, but that's about it because Poch didn't even really want to put those guys in, which is fair, but you need guys on the bench. So for them to still play well with this ad hoc team that they are basically throwing together at the last minute is insane. And it's awesome to see. I mean, this team is just resilient right now. And even through the stress of injuries, rumors about managers, rumors about players, to see them come together against a rival was pretty incredible.
Yeah, so I guess at this point, do you start to have hopes for European football for next year? I don't know. I mean, it might be tight, but I feel like you got something to put together here at the end of the season.
I mean, if Chelsea can continue rolling like this and piling up wins, piling up great performances, we could be looking at Europe. And what I liked about this match was that guys that haven't been doing it all year are starting to find their form. The first goal in this match, you have off a set piece free kick, Gallagher chipping it in, and Trevor Chalobah scoring a header off a beautiful little screen by Cucurella. I mean, Chalobah is not scoring goals normally. He's obviously a defender, so he's really only going to get goals off of set pieces. But what I like about this team is that these unlikely characters are stepping up. And just as I mentioned in the Bayern match, you're going to have these guys that step up and have huge performances. That's what Chelsea's been doing, which is really awesome. I mean, I never expected the team to be meshing the way they are now. And they're having fun too, which is great. I mean, you see it with that goal, you see it throughout the match. The second goal, which was a pure reactionary goal by Nico Jackson off of another set piece free kick from Cole Palmer, which would have been an insane goal. I don't know if you saw the highlight on that and how it hit the post, but
Oh yeah. Yeah,
yeah, so
the thing that I think I gathered the most from these Chelsea highlights and these recent matches are that they seem to be playing very well as a team, like almost better than I've seen them play as a team, and that seems like it's the most inspiring thing because obviously you have matches in the past where you get these incredible individual performances, from a Cole Palmer, for example. But then these last couple matches, it seems like they've just gelled as a unit more, which has got to be encouraging.
and that's what's awesome. You hit it on the head. I mean, Cole Palmer, as brilliant as he's been all year, a lot of times he's doing things by himself, whether it's assisting or scoring. You might have Noni Madueke lately with individual goals, which is fine. It's great. You love to see it. But these two goals specifically are two players that worked hard for the goals and got them, and they're playing well in a flow. They're creating all these chances together, whether it's through Mudryk, through Noni, Palmer, Caicedo, with some great through balls. They're still missing some of those chances as well. But you love to see that they're getting all these chances together as a team, like you kind of pointed out, instead of just that one guy doing everything.
Yeah, quite a few little deflection and reactionary type goals, and then yeah, and I guess I'm talking about both matches now too, including the West Ham match. But yeah, and then set piece goals too. Like it seems like they're kind of doing it all right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Tottenham game specifically was just a perfect team effort. I think Poch laid out a great plan once again. Going off of that Aston Villa match, as I mentioned, he still has been putting Cucurella in this inverted fullback position where he's going into the midfield with Caicedo. It's been so fun to watch. I mean, the way he just kind of bops around with his big hair, and it's been great. I mean, he's actually playing so well to the point where he's getting a ton of love from fans. People are talking about how Chilwell might not even have a spot at left back anymore. Um, I mean, it's been crazy the turnaround because Cucurella was at one point, at all points, this $60 million mistake that we bought from Brighton, and we were going to have to try to sell him for chump change. And no, that's probably not even going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the the defensive turnaround I think is truly remarkable these last couple matches for Chelsea because yeah, you always have flashes of offensive brilliance, I think, from them. But then the turmoil in the back line, all the injuries, all the changing positions, and all of a sudden there's clean sheets being put up.
Also awesome to see. I mean, Petrovic hasn't had a ton of action necessarily with shots on goal, especially in the last two, but he's looked great. As you mentioned, the defenders have looked great. I think at this point, I might as well just briefly touch on the West Ham game. We've
Yeah,
kind of been
let's
talking
go
about it
for it.
intermixed.
Yeah.
But yeah, two clean sheets. I mean, it's awesome. And I will say, today's match, Jared Bowen hit the post three times. So they definitely got a little bit lucky there. But I like the way they're defending. Thiago Silva was back in the lineup this morning for Chelsea. So that was awesome to see. The fans are really giving him so much love, which has
Got
been
to.
incredible.
Got to.
So yeah, I mean today's defense, you had him and Chalaba, and then you also had Batty Shield and Cucurella, and they seem to be humming for sure. Caicedo in the midfield with Gallagher. They've had a great relationship ever since Enzo's been out. And I'm not saying that to be against Enzo. I've seen some of that chatter, people asking, is Caicedo better without Enzo?
Hmm.
Maybe he is. Maybe he just does things a little bit differently. I'm not going to necessarily comment on that. But they're all just playing really well together right now. Mudryk was in again with Noni and Palmer and Jackson. The way they're connecting right now is awesome to see. The goals today, I mean, the first one, you mentioned it, kind of off a deflection, ball lands at Palmer's feet, he buries it. So you're off to an amazing start after this great London win against Tottenham, and then you're on the right foot again against West Ham. And from there, it only got better. I mean, the next goal, again, kind of one of those where the ball falls to Gallagher off a deflection, but he buries it, which they weren't necessarily doing at the beginning of the season. And that's why that's so encouraging, too, to see from a guy like Gallagher.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I don't know, I mean, I guess I'm sure we want to talk more about the rest of the match, but I'm already starting to think ahead. Like, Chelsea's next couple matches are winnable, I think, you know? Like, what now? Do we just see some, do they continue to take this momentum that we saw, kind of continue throughout the West Ham match, and do they just roll?
I sure hope so. I mean, as you said, they're very winnable. It's
Like
Nottingham Forest.
Forest, yeah.
It is away, and Forest definitely are still fighting to make sure they don't get relegated. But the way Chelsea are playing right now, I'm expecting a win there. Then you got a midweek against Brighton, also away. Brighton have struggled lately. They had a nice win against Aston Villa today, but really they've been struggling and in poor form. And then you end at home against Bournemouth, which should be very winnable as well. So yeah, the way they're playing, I'm expecting 3 wins at this point, which is kind of crazy to say, but at the same time, the way they're in form right now, I mean, scoring 5 goals today, and I touched on two, but Noni gets another goal. He's on fire, so he's got to be feeling so confident. And it was a header, which is crazy for him off a great Silva header. And then you got Nico Jackson, who all of a sudden is this super confident young man that was once missing these chances, and now he's burying them. I mean, watch out, Premier League, if he's scoring these goals.
That's what I was gonna bring up next. Yeah, about Jackson, where it's like, yeah, a few weeks ago it looked like he was indecisive. He would have 1v1s with the goalie and he would hesitate and then miss a shot or make the wrong pass or whatever. And now it's like, yeah, he's burying shots, he's making the right decisions. It seems like night and day for him.
You can see the growth if you literally watch the highlights from past games to this week's games. The example, just in the Tottenham game, Nico Jackson has kind of a one-on-one with the keeper. I think Madueke was on his right side. He could have passed, maybe should have passed. Instead, went for the chance, which he should have put away. Too low, keeper saves it. Fine. We wish he would have scored, but that can happen. But then today, you got this beautiful ball by Chalba up to Madueke. Madueke's kind of got that same scenario where he could either shoot or dish off a nice little pass to Jackson, which he does unselfishly. Jackson has a wide open net and he scores. The growth there between that partnership, where literally a few days between they weren't finding each other and now they are. And then later in the match, Jackson does have a one-on-one with the keeper, no teammate available, and he buries it, slots it in right past him. And he stayed on side, which is the key. He's run offside a ton this year, which I don't hate because he's making great runs and it's just a little bit of a timing thing at certain points. But today it was perfect. They literally called it offside on the field, let him score it, and then had to review it, and it was ruled onside, which was awesome to see the opposite decision kind of happen, which he's probably not even used to. So
Yeah. I think that the confidence factor is going to be huge for Chelsea and for these guys, especially because a lot of them are so young. You start to stack up wins like this, you start to just get rolling, and I feel like, you build up your confidence, and then when these situations arise again, you can kind of capitalize off of them slash hopefully not make the mistakes that you make as a young player.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're young, they have made mistakes. I think Poch, after one of these games, even said, with a young team, you learn by making those mistakes. They had those silly arguments about penalties. They had these selfish plays where they're shooting instead of passing. They're gonna grow. That's just natural. It's a natural part of life. When I was 21, I made mistakes all the time. Now I'm perfect at 26, and I never make mistakes.
That's true. That is true. Um, well, speaking of growth, do you want to move over to Bayern? Do you have anything else to say about Chelsea? Because I'm hoping for and expecting some major growth from Bayern after this weekend.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll add is just that I'm really looking forward to next weekend's match and hoping they can continue the momentum, especially in the next season too. And they're only getting healthier, so expecting great things and hoping maybe Bayern can be inspired by Chelsea's growth.
I hope so too, because Bayern is not getting healthier, unfortunately. They're getting more unhealthy as the days tick by. Yeah, so on Saturday, Bayern Munich traveled out to Stuttgart for a clash of the second and third place teams in the Bundesliga. Um, and Bayern lost. They lost 3-1 and they deserved to lose. And it was a bit of a sad showing. Not just because of the loss, but mostly because of the additional injuries that they picked up. Um, really at the worst time, similar to De Ligt and Limer going down against Frankfurt right before Madrid, the first leg. This one we had Guerrero and Dyer going down. So um, that was really the biggest bummer. I mean, Stuttgart pretty much dominated the match in terms of possession. Harry Kane got another goal off of a penalty, which is funny because we talked about last week how he only had four, now five pens in the Bundesliga, and then he had that one against Madrid too. So um, that's just a little bit funny, but he is now, I guess, 5 goals away from the record in the Bundesliga with 2 matches left now. So a little bit unlikely. He was probably Bayern's best player. I thought he should have had 2 or 3 assists too.
Yeah, I'm just quickly looking at their SOFA score. I mean, stat wise, they actually weren't far off on XG, but it seems that pretty much every player in the lineup had a poor day except for Kane and Neuer. Never a great thing when your keeper is one of your higher rated players, especially when they still gave up 3 goals. That means he must have saved a lot more shots.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so that's tough to see. I mean, and you got Davies with one of the lower ratings I've maybe seen on the app. So
Yeah, I'll start to go through, I guess, my ratings for some of these guys because this all ties into the how the match played out. But um, I guess first, just a quick overview. You basically had Stuttgart dominating possession as they like to do, which hats off to them. First of all, they're a great team. Sebastian Hoeneß is a great coach, and he brought them from battling for relegation to, you know, top of the Bundesliga. They'll end up with about as many points as Bayern had last season when they won the league. So they're not a bad team whatsoever. And they have a lot of good players too, as we talked about in the preview show. Go listen to that if you want. Episode 13. But yeah, Stuttgart dominated. They scored a goal. Relatively early. They put on quite a few shots. Neuer, like you mentioned, had a great game in my opinion. I'm giving him an 8 rating. He had plenty of saves. They could have scored more. Um, but yeah, then before halftime, you had Gnabry go down in the box. It was a pen. He got basically poked in the face, like poked in the eye as he was shooting. So that's a pen. And then Kane comes up, buries it like he does. No surprise. Um, And then Bayern had some chances in the beginning of the second half where they could have went up 2-3-1 and kind of like, closed the door on this game. They didn't do it. More Bayern players started getting hurt, and then the rest of the team kind of just played pretty passively. Seemed like they didn't want to, exert themselves too much ahead of Wednesday's matchup, and Stuttgart scored two more there. So um, it was a bummer. I'll just mention the injuries quick. Rafael Guerrero, he went down some sort of a knee, I think, injury, and he's gonna be out for Madrid. So that kind of sucks because he was actually a pretty big help against Arsenal. Um, and then you had Eric Dyer, who in the beginning of the match got like kind of elbowed in the head, was bleeding everywhere. And then he kind of stayed on and really just played like a warrior, if you ask me. He's getting an 8 from my player ratings. And just as a quick side note, Dyer has shown this kind of a mentality all season, which is one of the reasons why I like him. I think he's great for the locker room as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, the man had blood everywhere, and then he kind of like basically saved a goal himself just by heading a goal out later in the match, reopening up his cut. He had to get subbed off at halftime because the man was obviously concussed. Like he was walking out there with a bandage around his head, like just a true fighter.
I absolutely love to hear that from Dyer. I'm not surprised at all. I've always known him to be that type of player. Probably my favorite player on Bayern Munich, if I had to say. I mean, he shows the heart and garners respect from all opponents, I think, which is huge.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that because he was one of the bright spots of this whole match for Bayern, to be honest. I also I haven't looked at SofaScore or any other ratings, but I thought that Kim played very well too. So I want to shout out to Kim Min Jae for this one. Hopefully he gained some confidence back after the Real Madrid match, but he looked great to me. I'm giving him an 8 as well. Um, and then Kimmich again at right back. I'm giving him a 6. He was okay, I thought. Could have been better, but he was just one of those guys who seemed like they were playing pretty passively and like saving themselves for Madrid, which if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do, I guess. Over to left back, Davies, he was pretty much directly responsible for two of the goals, and he just continues this slump that he's seen almost this whole season. And I've heard a little bit of chatter about it, but not really that much. I start to wonder if Real Madrid is even going to want to buy him. Like the performances that he's putting up are pretty pretty bad, and something's clearly going on with him mentally. Like he just doesn't look like he's in it. His heart doesn't look like it's in it. Um, so I guess, yeah, I'm not like attacking him personally, but something is just going on with him. And I was kind of looking at his stats too, and he had like 48 touches or something like that, and essentially lost about a third of them, which I think is crazy. Like, you know, the fact that you're losing the ball that often, it's not right. And like he'll get beat and then just won't chase people and then they'll score. It's really outrageous. And I think you can't play him against Madrid. I just think you can't.
Yeah, that's interesting. I will say, kind of on the flip side of things for Davies, you see this in other sports too. I'm sure it happens in soccer to plenty of players, but that change of scenery factor can be huge for a guy. I'm not going to comment on whether he has mental issues or is thinking about the future and is trying or not trying. I'm not inside of his head, so I don't necessarily know that. But I do know that many times when you make a move, get into a new system, new city, make new friends, whatever, that can really help you, especially a guy like Davies, who I think probably has always had a ton of this pressure, super great player when he was young. was playing huge matches for Bayern at such a young age and was touted as one of the fastest, brightest, best young players. So that can really get to you. And then when you start to tumble and make some mistakes and aren't in great form, then you do maybe have some of those issues, whether it's mental, physical, I don't know, whatever it is. But I just think that'll be something to watch going forward. If he does go to Madrid or somewhere else, or if he stays, whatever, something probably needs to change. And I think at this point, maybe it's the best thing for all parties. And I'm sure you would kind of agree with that.
I would agree with that. And it really is a shame because he has such a high ceiling. And you've seen these, you know, brilliant runs from him. You've seen him be this kind of futuristic style player, you know. But yeah, whatever's going on with him, you know, if it's personal, if it's mental, I feel bad for the guy. But like I said, not a good performance. He's getting a three. Yeah, Guerrero mentioned got hurt. Giving him a five. It was just average. Didn't play that much because he got hurt. Pavlovich was also there in the midfield to give Limer and Goretzka a break, I think, because both of them have picked up knocks lately. I'm giving Pavlovich a six. It wasn't his best performance, but it was all right. He kind of hasn't been the same since he was injured and sick and all that stuff, which is a bummer. Um, I gave Serge Gnabry in the attack a seven. I thought he was one of our better attackers, but you know, had a couple of nice moves off counters, which is how Bayern was creating any of their chances, kind of were off counters. Um, Choupo-Moting was not very good, giving him a four. He missed a couple of wide open opportunities, kind of set up nicely by Kane, couldn't put him away. Tell on the other side, I'm giving a five. I thought he was average, wasn't one of his better performances either, but you know, he does do some nice stuff. And then yeah, Kane I talked about, giving him a nine. Goretzka kind of came in there. I'm giving him a seven. He was solid as well. He's kind of creating on those counters. And Upamecano had to come in. Mazraoui had to come in. Zaragoza had to come in. Zane had to come in. Just because of these injuries, you know, Upa is not healthy either. And Tuchel said after the match he was only supposed to play 20 minutes, you know, ish. And he ended up having to play a whole half because Dyer got injured. Zane is obviously not fit, but he had to play as well. Uh, Upa also unfortunately kind of gave up one that third goal. Just a guy beat him, and similar to Kim and Vinicius Jr. in Madrid, a guy just ran right behind him, was wide open, and got a clean shot off of that mistake. So just stuff like that. You don't you hope that stuff like that gets cleaned up, especially at this point in the season. And obviously, it can't happen against Madrid because Madrid is going to capitalize off that and will put you away.
Yeah. So do you think the way the game flowed, was it kind of Bayern maybe didn't start hot, but didn't start cold? It was kind of meh. And then all of a sudden, some guys get hurt, things don't start to go their way, and then kind of fell off. Do you think there was any rhyme or reason to that? Was it just simply poor play? Are there any other factors that may have been in there? I mean, maybe once they had all this poor stuff happen, they kind of said, all right, let's turn our focus to Madrid.
Yeah, I think it's kind of all the above. Their focus is clearly on Madrid, and like if they somehow beat Madrid, then it's worth it because this is almost a meaningless match in the Bundesliga. Um, so I think it's a lot of that. They had they had their moments in the match. They just couldn't capitalize off of those. So, for example, I think that Stuttgart kind of dominated the first half, and then they go into halftime and it's 1-1. And I think Bayern's feeling good about that. I mean, I was hoping to get out with a draw, honestly, at that point. And then after halftime, Bayern kind of came out hot and was creating all these chances and counters, and it looked like they were going to score. And then after that kind of died out and more people started getting injured, I think it was like, okay, now we're just gonna kind of throw in the towel. And then, Stuttgart scored again, and then at that point they were really just checked out.
Yeah, I noticed this in the Chelsea West Ham game, and I wonder if this happens in other leagues toward the end of the season. I'm sure it does, but you have teams where many of their players are injured. Some teams don't have anything to play for. They could be in the middle of the standings. They're not fighting for European football, not fighting to be promoted or relegated. Maybe the manager is on the outs. You got all these players that are kind of in no man's land if they're going to be re-signed, if they're not. But in the Chelsea West Ham game, West Ham was so poor, so dreadful. Second half shouldn't have been played. It looked like nobody cared. Chelsea were just walking the ball up. I'm not saying that happened or didn't happen in the Bayern game because I didn't watch, but I just wonder if when injuries pile up and there's less to play for, that affects these games too much because when you only have a few left, you don't want to hurt yourself more either. So I feel like that subconsciously can affect a guy's mental state and performance.
I think it definitely does, and I think there were a lot of distractions around this match in general. I don't know. I think ultimately, if you go into Madrid and you have a good showing, it's fine. Um, the thing that does kind of suck about this loss is that Bayern's 2 points ahead of Stuttgart right now in the Bundesliga, which may or may not matter. Essentially, Bayern's gonna have a chance, most likely, if they finish second place at the German Super Cup, which is some nice hardware, I would say, to add to a collection for the team. And especially a guy like Kane, who's just dying for hardware. So the German Super Cup is played between the winner of the Bundesliga and the winner of the DFB Pokal. And obviously, Leverkusen won the Bundesliga. They're probably going to win the DFB Pokal. They're in the final. So against a team that's, I think second or third Bundesliga. I think second Bundesliga. So there's a good chance that Leverkusen wins the Pokal as well, which at that point they would play against the second place team in the Bundesliga, which right now is Bayern. So if they win their last two matches, it doesn't matter. They still take second, but Stuttgart's basically right behind them.
I would have thought Leverkusen would just play against themselves.
Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to talk about with the Bayern match. I don't know if I can bring myself to even say anything else. But I should address because by the time our last episode came out, the news was already stale. Um, I guess stale is not the right word. The news was already wrong, but Ralf Rangnick turned down the Bayern coaching job, so the seat is open once again.
Although, according to him, he didn't turn it down. He just chose to stay as the Austrian manager. I kind of disagree. I think he did turn it down. That's literally what happened if you read the tea leaves.
Yeah, again, not something I need to spend that much time on just because I'm pretty tired, but the job is not looking as attractive as you would think it would, and honestly, I blame some of that on how the bosses slash ex-bosses at Bayern are so open and so like I don't know, critical of coaches in the media.
Tommy to go. Tommy to go. Tommy to go. Just keep him. Keep him for a year. Say screw it. Then you don't have to worry about it until next year. Push it off to problem of future Bayern directors, owners, whatever they call themselves. Keep this man, especially after he beats Real Madrid's ass this coming week. Keep him.
If he wins the Champions League, I'd be fine with it. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of fans that are clamoring for it to happen, although it sounds like it's not going to. But, stuff changes so fast. Who knows?
I'm one of those fans. I'll sign the petition.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess we turn our attention now to Real Madrid, which is what Bayern clearly had one eye on already over the weekend. The second leg for the semifinals is Wednesday, May 8th at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Currently, it's 2-2, and man, is it going to be a good one. I'm excited. It's the match of my life.
It is the match of your life, which means you've had two match of your lives in 2 weeks, but rightfully so. It is that big of a match. Draw coming in is insane. It's great for the fans, great for neutral people that don't have a connection to either side. It's going to be an awesome match. I still think Bayern has some of that juice going. This weekend hiccup won't necessarily affect them, in my opinion. Real Madrid also will have something to say about that. But you got these two big teams with firepower. I won't call them two horses, but boy, was that a race on Saturday. But this race on Wednesday will be insane.
Is it going to be a photo finish again?
Who knows? We might have one of those goals that just ekes its way over the line or doesn't. Maybe it's still on the line. Maybe you got a ball slowly rolling over. Eric Dyer, blood coming out of his eyes, kicks up with a foot, saves it. They review it, and it's no goal.
I'm gonna just quickly run down the lineup that I hope to see, and it's all gonna depend on injuries, but I think we'll see Manuel Neuer between the sticks, of course. And then on the back line, I'd like to see Mazraoui, Dyer, De Ligt, and Kimmich. Man, I hope that Dyer and De Ligt are healthy enough for this one. If they are, I think Bayern's gonna have a great shot. If not, it might be a little shaky back there. Um, I hope Limer and Goretzka are healthy enough for the midfield too. I think if this goes past 90 minutes, you might need to throw Pavlovic in there. So we'll see what happens. Um, and then on the attack, obviously we'll see Harry Kane up top, but man, am I just praying that Zane and Musiala are healthy enough to go. Um, and then yeah, I think depending on health and depending on what Tuchel's gonna do, we're either gonna see Muller again in that 10 spot, or maybe we'll see Musiala in the 10 and then Serge Gnabry if he's ready to go too, starting in the attack.
I say this every time. It's really just going to come down to who can step up for either of these teams. I unfortunately don't think Bayern has the juice to get it done in a normal match, which is why I think something is going to have to happen where Bayern can take advantage of a mistake or have a super worldly goal and somebody strikes one in or something bounces the right way. I just think Real Madrid is too consistently great and they know how to win games, know how to win these big games. And Bayern does too, to a certain degree, but sometimes it's just not your season. And I don't know if it necessarily is for Bayern, which is a shame, but that's just how I'm feeling right now about it.
Well, that's the thing with Madrid too, is they're one of those teams who they can look dead, they can look like they're getting dominated, quite frankly, and somehow they win games. Champions League especially. Somehow they win games. You know, I don't know how or why or what they did to please the football gods, but they win matches. So do you have a prediction for this one, or do you want to wait to throw that on the match preview, which all can see on Twitter at alwaysbeche?
So I have gone through some of the behind the scenes analytical data that's been presented to me. I get these printouts from an unnamed source that gives me little tidbits, but from what I've seen based on that, I'm gonna go 2-1 Real Madrid, meaning in the aggregate
Four to
three to
three.
two. My mistake, 4-3. I was thinking it was 1-1 because that was my prediction last week.
You got to get on these
Which
analytics guys. They're giving you faulty info.
I'm just glad I did predict a draw last time and I was right on that. But yeah, I think Real Madrid will get it done. I do think they'll get it done in the 90 minutes plus whatever little bit of extra they'll have. I don't think it's going to go to 120 minutes or PKs or anything. Yes, 2-1 Madrid, 4-3 in the aggregate. Madrid will score early. I think they'll put up a second and it'll be 2-0 in this second leg. Bayern gets one late to try to make things interesting, but Madrid ended up being too much. Kane cries, no trophy for him. Another one or two Bayern players get hurt. The season ends in shambles, but Tuchel stays because he's strong.
Good Lord. Okay, here's my prediction. Just to cancel out all of that negative juju. I think enough of these Bayern players are pissed off. They've heard it in the media all season. Some of them have heard it from their coach, frankly, that they're not good enough. You know, this is the team that finally lost the Bundesliga after 11 years. I think I think there's something building for this team. As much as I've said Real Madrid just finds a way to win and wins every single Champions League match some way, somehow, by the grace of the football gods, I think Bayern's going through. Bayern's going to the Champions League final. They're going to win 3-2, meaning 5-4 in aggregate. It's going to be pandemonium, honestly. Something's going to happen. Something's going to break for them their way for once this season. Um, Kane's going to show the world that he is no longer cursed, and the German beer hall in Milwaukee is going to be erupting.
I would imagine that it's going to be an insane day Wednesday. I would guess that there's a decent amount of people that do show up, even though it is on a weekday. I don't know for sure, but do you have any knowledge on that?
I have no idea. I have not been able to go there during the week, unfortunately.
I did want to look at the odds because we have a listener and a fan that would like to have us give out a couple picks. And right now, if you really think Bayern is going to go through in the 90 minutes, they're plus 275. So there's a lot of value there if you think that is the case. I also see some value on Real Madrid at minus 115 in the 90 minutes. I would personally place a bet on that. I'm not going to because I'm responsible right now in my life. But for those out there that do make bets, my recommendation is to hammer Real Madrid minus 115 on the money line.
I cannot give recommendations for betting purposes because I'm proclaiming this prediction strictly with my heart.
Well, in that case, if you're a gambler, a good gambler, you'll know to stay away from the heart. So, but it's good advice for those listeners out there to kind of be wary of your heart and compare it to your mind. Some people don't have a sound mind, so maybe don't listen to that either.
Exactly. Do you have anything else to say? Otherwise, let's wrap this one up.
Shout out Chelsea women. I saw they just looked up. They beat Bristol City 8-0. Not that it really
Respect.
matters, but yeah, respect to them.
All right, well, stay tuned. Look at us on Apple and Spotify and YouTube and Twitter because we are going to be active and we are going to be posting things that you want to see and hear because this week is exciting. Wednesday is going to be exciting. Hey, win or lose, these are the matches that you live for. So I'm excited. I'll probably be extremely nervous and I'll probably be texting you nonstop, but you know how it goes, baby. Go Bayern.
Go Bayern for me as well. Beat Real Madrid and up the Chelsea.